can I have my balls back? All right. Nice bounce pass. Whoa, okay, and another one? Hey, I'm liking this. Now let me ask you something. Ah, thank you. Who was the first person I threw it to? Yes. When I threw that to you, what was your anticipation? I mean, were you...
I wanted you to play.
You wanted to play. Yes. You were right there, and you looked like this is going to be fun. And it was. Any other anticipations there? Okay. Who else? Yes. What was your anticipation?
I will catch it.
I will catch it. I am going to do it. I can do this. Wonderful. Another one? Up behind you? Any other anticipation? Yes. Nobody is worrying. Yes.
I wanted the color pink.
Yeah. Because pink means what to you?
Love.
Love. Yes. What a great thing. You know, this is over here. Any other anticipations? Anybody? Yes.
That you would give it to me.
Yes. That it was going to come to you. You know, that speaks so well for this group. All these anticipations, did you notice? They're all positive. Nobody's saying, well, I was really afraid I was not going to be able to catch it. Nobody was saying, oh, I was just going to knock my glasses off and break them. But no, positive anticipations. It wasn't that fun. It was brief, but it was fun and enlivening. All those positive anticipations were expressions of your aliveness. Anticipations matter, and that's the point of today. It is a simple statement that anticipation determines outcomes. We have fun in part because you have positive anticipations. These are key to our lives. And you know, the prince of them all to me was Dr. Seuss in his book. You know, the places you'll go. Imagine waking up each morning and hearing this in your head. Oh, the places you'll go, there is fun to be done. There are points to be scored. There are games to be won. And the magical things you can do with that ball will make you the winningest winner of all. Can you imagine getting up in the morning and walking out the door with that ringing in your head? Or your wife repeating it to you as you head for the door, or your husband repeating it to you? Oh, the places you'll go, there is fun to be done. There are points to be scored. There are games to be won. And the magical things you can do with that ball will make you the winningest winner of all. Imagine walking down the streets of Ajijic with that in your head, and that as your anticipation that will determine your outcomes for that day. Or if you like something a little bit more serious, we could join Nicholas Sparks when he says in 3 Weeks with My Brother, never forget that anticipation is an important part of life. Work's important, family is important, but without excitement, you have nothing. Nothing. You are cheating yourself if you refuse to enjoy what's coming. Cheating yourself. Anticipation determines outcome. And, you know, it's another layer of experience. Experiences are always embellished upon. Nothing is ever just what it is. We always have layers of fantasy, we have layers of imaginings, we have layers of anticipation that will color what that experience is. And without those layers of anticipation, it would be a flat world. Can you imagine what would happen if you're a child and you're about 10 years old, and one day the circus just shows up in town? No announcements, none of those posters on the telephone poles, nothing in the newspaper, no speaking of it on the playground at school, nothing, it just shows up. Now, wouldn't you feel that you had missed something? That there was something that should have been there that wasn't? The joy of those days of anticipation or weeks of anticipation, of there I am sitting under the big top with all those other excited people waiting for the show to begin and picturing yourself there. with your friends and picturing the music and the animals, wouldn't you feel that something was missing if you didn't have time to anticipate? Again, you would have been cheated out of something. We need to know or believe that the circus, in fact, is coming to town. Or you know one of my favorites? I haven't seen the movie or read the book, but The Hunger Games. There is a wonderful quote there where Suzanne Collins says, remember, we're madly in love with each other, so it's all right to kiss me anytime you feel like it. Wow. There's music to your ears, because it will be good. Anytime you feel like it, and I will be there to receive it. It's all right to kiss me anytime you feel like it, because we're madly in love. Anticipation. What she is doing is establishing an anticipation, an expectation. And that is what's going to determine the outcome of your morning, your afternoon, your life. We need to pay attention to them. They are at the core of things. So these are all, positive anticipations. Actually, a final thing that I like is a quote from, let me see, I'll have to get back here, Julian Barnes, where he writes, remember that botched brothel visit in France, and remember its lesson. Do not participate. Happiness lies in the imagination, not in the act. Pleasure is found first in the imagination and later in memory. So if you want to find pleasure, look to your anticipations and take control of them, shape them, form them, develop them. They're your creation. And so these are all the positive. But what happens if you have negative anticipations? It's going to change the whole color of your day. You're not walking out the door with that sense of, the places you'll go. No. One of the short stories I like is an unpublished short story about a boy and his battle with peas. Imagine him sitting at the table at dinner, and there's this chocolate cake that has just been pulled out of the refrigerator. Chocolate cake, his favorite. And it's set on the table, and as he watches the plates being passed out like cards being dealt at a casino, and the first wonderful slice being very delicately cut, he is suddenly brought back to the reality of the gross image patiently waiting in front of him on the opposite side of his plate. Green peas. Only the most terrible vegetable ever to be sold in 14.5-ounce cans. Oh. And what's more, there seemed to be a mound of them of at least 150 to 200. This was not his first encounter with peas. He had always managed to pull off a victory in his previous hustles, but the casualties were always high. The boy had sacrificed many a good taste bud in order to defeat this terrible foe. Yes, they were in fact quite small, but they attacked in large numbers. So the most awful attack to come was not the initial foul taste of the peas, but rather the peas as they were dealt the death blow by the boy's teeth. They would explode and release that awful, awful flavor. They were the suicide bombers of the canned vegetable variety, and he knew they would not go easy on him. So he looks again at the cake, and he looks back at the peas, trying to muster up some of the courage that he so desperately needed, somewhere, anywhere, knowing he has to eat those poor green peas before even a wisp of icing would glide across his finger. Well, the old excuses won't work this time. He's stuck with the old maiden that he has to eat his peas. So pinching his nose and closing his eyes, he endures much suffering for the future hope of the promised cake, flowing and chocolate and frosting. What a way to go through life, huh? Gotta eat a mound of peas before you can get to the chocolate cake and the icing. Expectations, anticipation. You know, somebody once described that to me as Catholic theology, that you have to go through hell in this life to get to heaven in the next. That's negative expectations, negative anticipations. But you know, we don't have to go with all of the negative anticipations. One of the things that Alfred Hitchcock said is that the fear is not in the bang. The fear is in the anticipation of bang. So anticipating negative experiences or anticipating problems that will be unsolvable is like suffering twice. Once for the event itself, and once for those minutes, days, weeks of anticipation. Why suffer twice? Especially when you don't really know what's going to happen or what it's going to be like, because we don't know until we've been there. So I always like that quote from Mark Twain. It says, there were a lot of bad things in my life, and some of them even happened. Negative anticipations. Why suffer for something that isn't even going to occur? And why suffer from something that is, and suffer twice? Denial can be a beautiful thing. You know that? It gets a bad name in psychotherapy. But honestly, if something is happening that I can't do anything about, I want denial. This isn't happening. Because my mind is where I'm living anyway, isn't it? But yeah, sometimes a lot of denial or a little denial is a very helpful thing. It gets us through the bad times, you know that? You know, how else do you suffer a huge loss and come through it except for periodically going with our automatic mind that says, yeah, of course she's coming through the door. And letting that be your reality. It's a happy anticipation to give you relief from another reality that you can't quite yet absorb, that it's too much, too painful. But anyway, anticipation, it determines outcomes. If you'd like one more homey example, I can give you one from my own life. Some years ago, I was skiing with my son and my daughter in Vermont. By the way, for those of you who ski in the West, those of us in the Northeast often will point out that the only trouble with skiing in the West is they don't know how to ski ice there. But we were skiing, and one time I was in one of those, the chair lifts, you know, where you put the round thing between your legs and hold the pole. And I got started, and I was about 20% up when there was a big bump in the trail, and I fell off. Oh, and you know these other people are coming behind you. And you got to get out of the way fast. And there you are laying with the trail with your skis all wrapped around you while they say unmentionable things to you. Okay, well, I managed it. But we went back again about a month later and decided to go take the same trail. So, chucked it down there. Right. And I see that spot coming up. I said, yeah, that's where I fell down before. And I see a bump. I said, yeah, that could happen again. I said, stupid, don't think like that. And then I, boom. Anticipation creates outcomes. I don't think I would have fallen the second time. At least I like to think that. Had I not had that anticipation. What you anticipate in the morning when you leave your house is extraordinarily important. Because it will create an outcome. It will. Leslie and I were driving through the village about a week ago. And then she looks over at me and says, what are you smiling at? Well, nothing. I guess it's just my natural expression. And then I thought again, because as we go through the village, you know, you have to go slow, and you see people on the sidewalk, and especially with the Mexican people, I would say, hola, buenos dias, and they always say hello back. And I said, I guess what it really is I'm getting in position to say hello to people and to set them up to say hello back to me. Just because it feels good. That's all. It's a moment. A feel-good moment. I like that. Just anticipation determines outcome. Go down smiling, and people sometimes smile well ahead of the time before I say anything to them. It's critical about anticipation. Now, when it comes to anticipations, as you've already noticed, there are really only three kinds of anticipations you can have. Positive, which we talked about and experienced here. Negative, which I've also told you a little about. And I imagine you have your own stories about a positive expectation determining an outcome, as well as your own stories about a negative expectation determining an outcome. So you can have positive, negative, or simply no expectations. And if you have no expectations, what will happen? Yeah, nothing. Well, actually, you become a little more vulnerable at that point. It's kind of like if you don't have a plan, then you'll become part of somebody else's plan. Which means choose the people around you well, because there are people I would love to become part of their plan. Others, not so sure. But yeah, you can have positive expectations, negative expectations, and no expectations. The important part is that you become conscious that you have a choice. And the nature of your day, the quality of your experience, will be determined by your anticipations. Now, let me just go one other place with this. We can also change other people's expectations. We can do it. Some really fun kinds of stories about those. One, I know a man who teaches karate, 5th degree black belt. Wonderful guy. He's probably in his mid-40s. Has several karate studios, and he has another man who's a partner who's about 10 years older than he. Well, one evening they decide to go to dinner, and they have to find this bar restaurant they like, and they go and they sit down at a table. As they're sitting there, they notice a couple comes in. The guy, obviously having had a little too much to drink already, and they go to the bar. She sits down, and he goes off to the bathroom. Well, this attractive woman then comes over to the table where my two friends are sitting, and they chat for a little bit, and then her boyfriend comes back, and she goes back to the bar. Well, you got two, black belts here, teachers. Well, the guy decides he needs to come over and have a little talk with these two guys about their hitting on his girlfriend. So he kind of staggers over to the table and starts in. At which point my friend just looks up at him and says, look, if you want to be able to brag to all of your friends about beating up a couple of gay guys in the bar, go ahead, but why bother? Boy, did he change his anticipation, right? How am I going to brag about that? Or another story I like is a friend of ours, a good friend from Connecticut, is an executive in the mental health organization. Rather distinguished man, and at any rate, he had to go from Hartford out to Torrington for a meeting, about 45 minutes away maybe. So he gets in his car, and he's all dressed up in his suit, drives out, gets about halfway there to the town of Winstead, which I often think of, friends tell me wrongfully, but that's kind of a biker town. Lots of leather, lots of hair. And he pulls up to the 7-Eleven. And there's a big bike there. And he just taps it. Just taps it. Well, he walks in, gets his coffee, and as he's paying for it, and turning to leave, this big paw comes down his shoulder. He turns around and looks at this big guy and says, "If you want to talk to me, you'll have to look at me. I can't hear you." He's all ready to rip him. So he rips him. He says, "Please speak more slowly because I can't understand you." At which point the guy throws up his hands and walks out. Changed his expectations quickly and his anticipation. And our friend said the funniest thing was the look on the guy's face who was standing behind the counter with whom we'd just been having a normal conversation. Change the anticipations and you'll change the outcome. There's also, finally, the story of the siege. I'm sorry I don't remember the historical details. Europe, 1500s, castle, large army around, laid the castle under siege. And what should happen? Well, you know, they're running out of food inside, as planned. And the siege has gone on for like 7 or 8 months now. Now you have to realize that all of the soldiers around the castle, they are the people who farm the land. They have families back home. Fighting is a part-time enterprise, you know, when they're not taking care of their land and their families. They go with the landowner and go on these wars. So they're getting restless. They want to go home. This isn't fun. They're just sitting around all day waiting to starve them out. So as they're just running out of food, that finally the people have only 1 cow left and 1 bag of grain. So they need to change the anticipation on the outside. So what do? They kill the cow, fill its belly with grain, and throw it over the wall to the other army, which decides, you know, if they can do that, they've still got a lot of food in there. And they all went away. All they did was change the anticipation, and it changed the outcome. An amazing thing. The other story I like is from World War II, and again, some of you historians may have heard this or the details before, but at any rate, my version of it is we have a German column of tanks coming into a small town, and they're going to take it over. And, you know, people hate it. They hate the Germans at this point. And the Germans are expecting that people are going to be resistant and unpleasant about it, but they're not going to fight them physically. So anyway, turns out the mayor of the town, the tanks roll down the main street, comes out to meet the tank column and to tell them that they are not welcome and that they wish they would leave the town immediately. And the tank commander also is ready for a confrontation. Problem is, the mayor doesn't speak German, so he needs a translator. Nor does the tank commander speak the language of the people in the village. Fortunately, one man does speak both languages, and so he acts as interpreter. So when the tank commander says to the mayor, "We are going to take this place over, and you had better do what we say," the interpreter says, "You know, the tank commander wishes you to know that they come in peace, that they wish no harm to anyone in the village." And when the mayor says, "Get out of our town, we want nothing to do with you," the interpreter says, "We welcome you to your town. We have anticipated your arrival. I hope you will join me for dinners this evening." And so it goes until by the end of the conversation, they shake hands, and no damage was done to the town, and everyone behaved themselves. Anticipation on both sides was changed, and a different outcome occurred than would have occurred. Now, the thing to know is that you can change your anticipations. First, by noticing what they are. An amazing number of people don't know what their expectations are. But you can change them, and you can change them on a dime. I have certainly done that. You know, you get up in the morning, you feel a little bit loggy, and you say, "Oh, this is going to be a slow day." And then after your shower, you say, "Forget it. This is going to be a great day. There could be some interesting things. I'm going to go do this, and I might meet somebody interesting on the street. I might be able to create someone interesting on the street just by my speaking to them. There will be a lot of good moments just on the street. And who knows what will happen? Shift, and your mood shifts with it. Change your anticipation. Change your mood. Change your thought. Change your mood. It's an amazing thing. One of those things a friend in AA told me that I love about our responses to things is that you're not responsible for the first thought you have about something. The one that comes automatically, you know? The one that is not considered. But you are responsible for the second one. The one you have thought about. That reaction is the one that counts. You know, when somebody offers a movie up, let's go see this movie, you say, I don't think so. That's your first response. Then your second one is, well, the truth is I don't know much about the movie. Maybe it'll be good. Sure, of course, let's go. It's your second response, where you have a chance to change your anticipation. So what I'd like for you to do is to take charge of your anticipations. Become aware of them, and then choose. Your role in this? You're the decider. That's what he said. You're the decider about your anticipation. So, take charge. Be the decider. Know that you have a choice. Even when you don't think you do. It will change your life, and it will also change your experience of living at Ajijic. If it's already good, as I imagine it is for most of you, it will make it even better if your anticipations are positive. And if you catch yourself when they go negative and bring them back to positive, and it's not like being unrealistic about things, but it's how you interpret it. How you change it into a positive anticipation or not. Like I say, that movie you didn't want to see. Well, I don't know. Or that food that you didn't want to taste. Well, the truth is, I don't really know what it's like. How about one bite? What do I know? I've never tried it before. Change your anticipations. Make them positive for yourself and for other people. And you will find then that Ajijic is a very happy place to be, and so is any other place you might happen to be. If the anticipations are there, you will find about what you're looking for. And you will create it, and you'll use your imagination so that the circus won't just show up one day and deprive you of all of that anticipation. That you will have that anticipation because we create our own narrative. We create our own stories. And then we prove them to be true, of course. Because we can always gather as evidence for the negative or for the positive. Which would you rather have? So what I'd like you to do is sometime today or this evening, just take a moment and write down a very brief 3 words about something that you are positively anticipating tomorrow. It could be something trivial or something bigger, but something that you know you are looking forward to tomorrow. And then embed that with you and enjoy it and anticipate it. And just notice the kinds of changes that doing that can make for you. Or even as you're leaving your house. Notice, what are you anticipating? It's going to be a long walk to the store. I always remember walk on the shady side of the street so you don't get sunburned. But, yeah, it's going to be a nice walk to the store. Oh, geez, I need to do this after that and that and that. Well, hey, I'm going to do this. And I'm going to enjoy this moment right now because I anticipate that I will. I don't need any other evidence. Just I anticipate that I will. Therefore, I will. It's the only way it can be. Because I say so. On the basis of your own personal authority. Nobody else's. Your personal authority matters. It matters most. And so, please do go home. Write those 3 words. Notice your mood, your anticipations. And if you need to change them, talk to yourself. And if that doesn't work, call me. I've left some cards in the back with my phone number. And call me. think this is going to make a difference. If you say so, because you are the deciders.
Your new office.
Oh, is it okay to say my new office? I'm just opening my practice in individual marital and family therapy this week. And this Dr. Leon's office is where I will be. So that is something new that I have happy anticipations for. But mostly, I have happy anticipations for each of you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Huh? Maybe if I make sure I'm off, you'll be on.
Yeah, good. Well, don't go away so fast, Les.
Oh.
People are anticipating
Oh, a question or
a question and answer period.
I was looking at my watch and saying, am I okay?
No, you're okay, but we allowed a little
Okay.
extra time.
Certainly. Yes, I've run out the clock already. Certainly.
Well,
I
if
would
you're-
like to add
Okay,
something.
over here.
I haven't done it for a long time. Yeah, I have to practice again. Thank you very much for your presentation, Dr. Strong. You made a number of good points. One thing that might be worth addressing is the degree of anticipation. If you over-anticipate, you may be disappointed.
Yeah.
As I just mentioned to you, I call it expectation, same thing.
Yeah.
So if you keep your expectations realistic or maybe a little bit below realistic, you will hardly ever be disappointed. So you'll be very happy.
That is so interesting to me, that argument, because it's the one we often hear. I don't want to be disappointed.
Exactly.
Since when did disappointment become the worst thing in the world? You know? But we treat that as a truism. And I think the other good point you're making is about our anticipations. If they're impossible, then you call them a fantasy. And you enjoy the fantasy, is the way I think about it. Or the other thing is we make mid-course corrections all along the way. It's not like we set an expectation and that's it. No, it's dynamic. It flows. So we make all these slight or great mid-course corrections along the way so that our anticipations have a sense of, this is possible. Yeah, it can happen. And if it doesn't, it's just a wonderful fantasy. Yes. I'm not sure what's happening, but I'm lost.
Okay, here, I get this one.
Yeah. This gentleman here, please stand over the hand this much.
Again, thank you. It was a very interesting, but my comment was, we owned a ski lodge, my wife and all, at Killington, Vermont. And we moved to Purgatory, to Colorado, and ski in Purgatory, and you do not have to sharpen your edges. You don't? No, it's so much different.
I may have to go west one of these days just to find out.
Another comment or question?
Yes. Anyone else have, oh, okay, I'm back.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it. Before we talk about next week's presenter, I'd like to mention that there has been a lost purse. It's a small clutch, plain colored, with several zippers. If you look around and happen to find it, please turn it in over there by the sound station. Our presenter next week is Art Thorkildson, story writer and teller who has been very popular with us. And next week he's going to talk about the explorers, the rise and fall of the British Empire, and the last place on Earth, the search for the South Pole. We've appreciated him very much as a speaker and humorist, so I hope you'll come back. Please remember to turn your cell phones back on, pick up your coffee cups, and stack the chairs. We thank you for coming and hope to see you next week.